Hello there. If you've been here for any amount of time, you'll know that I love sharing my garden, sharing the things that inspire me about gardening. But in today's video, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be sharing the things that aren't doing so well in the garden right now. And maybe we can chat here and in the comments about what we can do to make these things look a little bit better, either this season or next year. And stick around till the end because I'll be sharing some things that are looking amazing as well. So we are right in the front of the cottage garden, right underneath the rose arbor, and I want to start with something that's really sad because it's been doing so well every year for us, and that is the sedum. The sedum that we have used as one of our solid kind of stalwarts in the garden. It's also structurally something that we've repeated throughout to really create that cohesion of a cottage garden. So you have those staple pieces amidst all the kind of whimsy and the jumble so that you can really have that repetition for your eyes to rest on. But our sedum this year have been so awful. It's just not been the season for sedum. We had so much rain in the early spring and summer, and they just have all completely squelched. They are not looking happy at all. So let me start with our sedum. This is the Autumn Joy. Okay, so right underneath our rose arbor, we have our first little pair of sedum here and here. And then we've repeated those throughout. You can see right there is our third one. We just have them throughout. And that typically just has these sort of clouds of green foliage. And then as the season progresses, they get more and more burgundy. They really match the cone flowers. It's such a pretty look. But this year, you guys, I've already had to cut these back, but usually these are completely full of those umbellifers of flower, and oh my goodness, just brown and squelchy. Look at these leaves. Not looking hot. So that's one that has just not been very happy this year. Started out with just some of this kind of grayish pink looking markings on the leaves. And then each of the stems just started to kind of squelch. Now they're kind of dried because of the heat wave that we got, but they just started to squelch and just look awful. So this is the worst one. I'll show you the other one over here on this side. This one still looks like a sedum. It still has the shape of a sedum. Let me get out of your way here. See, it's still doing what I want it to do, but just not as healthy. And it's definitely just because we got way too much water at the beginning of the season. So as you kind of walk down, we have our next little pair right here. It's just looking really, really rough. Our smaller sedum, smaller stone crop, is looking really healthy. Maybe a little bit of that yellow foliage at the center that you can see there. Probably from some water stress, a little bit too much water. See, typically they're more like this one, where the foliage is that really beautiful blue color, and it actually looks great. The blue colored foliage with this chartreuse, green and purple, like those together, blue, chartreuse, green and purple. That's really nice. A little combination there. This one's looking really good, and it opens up into these beautiful light pink star-shaped flowers. It's a really beautiful one. So the smaller ones look okay, but yeah, our other ones, not so much. So the solution for that is not super easy because it's out of the gardener's hands. You know, it's really about just the weather at the beginning of the season. We had just crazy amounts of rain, and they lasted for such a long time that they didn't have a chance to kind of a break and a breather from it. So that's our first one that's not looking great. How are your sedums looking this year? It's so funny. Those are always on my bulletproof perennials list. And this is the first time we've struggled with them. But, you know, it was because they were getting too much water. Okay, number 2 plant is an annual. And it is the unplugged pink salvia. I think, planted a few of these toward the end of the season last year, kind of played around with it and loved them, loved that kind of fuchsia color. So I decided that this year I would bring some more of those in for that beautiful color. And the slugs absolutely decimated every single one that we have. I've had to nurse them. I've had to put them in separate pots where I'm keeping elevated and treating them specially just to keep all the slugs off. Not treating with anything, but just like caring for them, tending to them, being more aware of them. Call them like the sick bay on the porch. But we had one right here where this plain the blue salvia is. We had two on either side. There's the remnants of it, of the one on this side. And this, ignore this phlox. Obviously another one that's not doing so well. But this one here is sort of the remnants of it. But that's not as much of a gap as it was on this side. On this side, you kind of really missed that shape there. So I took a salvia that was kind of tucked in behind this cleome and transplanted it here. It transplanted beautifully. And this plain the blue salvia, like 1,000 out of 10. This is such a fantastic plant and just so beautiful. The other one is here. I've been trying to treat it really well, just be aware of how it's doing. But yeah, you can even see the leaves are just being munched on. The slugs love it. And then let me show you on our porch is this one here. And it looks a lot better. If you could see what it looked like a few weeks ago, it looked terrible. And now it's looking much, much healthier. So what I'm doing is working, which is great, but it's just one of those things. So that salvia just really, really, really is susceptible to slugs in our area, which is so funny. We've just never experienced that with salvias. The slugs tend to leave our salvias alone. They're kind of one of those that luckily the slugs don't mess with. This year, the Sunpatiens, the Impatiens, those are the ones that have been really great in terms of annuals that the slugs have left alone. Even our supertunias, which are typically, our petunias are just like completely eaten by the slugs. This year it's been pretty good. And that pink profusion salvia was the only one that really got messed with. So that's our number 2. The only thing I would say for that in terms of kind of preventing it is the ones that I have in pots are doing much better than the ones that I have in ground. That could be something to try. But feel free to share if you've had a similar experience with that salvia or any other salvias. Okay, number 3. Number 3 is right here, but you can't actually see it because it's doing that poorly. It is this Kufia. It's beautiful. I think it's totally tempted, vivid violet, I think. Kufia, it's this one here. From the very beginning, it struggled. Another annual, the hummingbirds, the butterflies, the bumblebees love it when it's in bloom, but it hasn't been much in bloom, and it's just really struggled. It feels like every single day it's wanted water. If we don't give it enough water, it totally flops and the leaves really start to kind of curl, and it just seems really miserable. It's mirrored on this side, and this side, the Kufia seems a lot happier. It is being crowded out. That's kind of the name of the game with a cottage garden. You know, if you are gardening in a cottage style, you want things to kind of kiss each other. You want them to be really close to one another. It really has that full look in the border, and it makes it so much easier to maintain. The soil stays more moist. Weeds aren't as prominent because you don't have a lot of bare ground in the garden, right? But the Kufia has really struggled with that. It's not one that can kind of fight against really prolific plants like our lamb's ear here, or even this cobalt superbena right here. And we do have a few of the Kufias in the back garden, in our sunken garden, and I want to show you those here because, it is possible to have really beautiful Kufia in one area and plants in general, and they just don't like it in another area. It's funny because that was like a secret project. I shouldn't have showed you that. We're gonna upload that soon. But the Kufia back here is looking so much better. I mean, just look at the size of it. I mean, it is incredible. They're like shrubs. They look so beautiful and happy. I mean, that's really a showcase of what the plant should look like. And this is 2 different plants, annuals. This one was in a pot, and we decided to put this out here because it was just such a pain to have to water it. In that pot, it was just doing the same thing the other one was doing in the border. And so we had to water it all the time. And so we just decided to put it in the ground and see if it would be happier, like this, the way this one was. And oh my gosh, is it ever. I love the color. I love how they look. They're just such a beautiful plant. I actually think that fuchsia next to that beautiful chartreuse of the sedum is really, really spectacular. So this is an example of some Kufias that are looking really good. This is an example of a sedum that is actually looking really good. Look at that. Oh, I just love our backyard. I'm gonna show you the window boxes here as well. Bert's working on some stuff in the But oh, I just love what we've done with those window boxes, and the hanging baskets are just looking so beautiful. Very fun. And our sunken garden just makes me so happy. But that's the thing, you know, with the Kufia, with any plant, it can look horrid in one part of the garden and really wonderful in the other part. So what I would say about that is the ones that we have out there, they're not competing with any other plants. So maybe having them in an area where you know that they can get enough water, consistent water. If you have drip, you know, that can be a really great way of sort of mitigating some of the issues that we're having with it, trying to constantly keep it wet. I would just say having consistent water on the Kufia is probably going to be something that's really important for that plant. Now, let me show you our next one. This one's kind of sad. So our next one on the list is these, not these hydrangeas, they look fantastic. And it's these double white begonias in the window boxes. Let me come over here and show you. These double white begonias in the window boxes. They just haven't grown at all. And they're just, the petals on those, they just don't die back very well. So that's kind of a bummer. So with our window boxes, we typically put in white begonias. We've tried different things, and the big white begonias or the surefire white begonias do really, really well in those window boxes. Because the light varies so much throughout the 4 window boxes in the front of the cottage, we've just found that the big white or the surefire white begonias, they're kind of like singles, you know, open flowered begonias. They just have performed so well for us, and they all are pretty even though they have totally different lighting conditions. They're really solid. Their leaves look really healthy and glossy and big throughout the year. They get big enough to where you can see those ruffly petals from inside. They're just beautiful. And they just sort of fill up the boxes and just kind of tumble out. They just look like ruffles, like a little adornment on the front of the cottage. And I love it. And I guess from here, they're kind of doing that, the ones that we got this year, but we got a double begonia this year. A double, I'm not sure of what the variety is, but it was a different brand that we haven't used before for these window boxes, and they haven't grown at all. Some flowers die back really well, where you can barely tell. I mean, those big white begonias, the flowers fall off before they brown, so then they're already on the ground, and then they kind of, like, the petals that are spent match the mulch by the time they do brown, so there's no problem with it. But these ones, they turn brown on the plant, and they just haven't grown. They're not covered in blooms the way that we're used to. So I would say those are kind of a fail. So that's one of those that I would just ask you. Do you have any suggestions? Have you used this variety? I'll try and leave it on the screen somewhere. And has it performed well for you? If so, what kind of conditions are you giving it? Nothing in our garden is on drip. We don't hardly ever water them because that has never been something that we've needed to do, just because we get so much rain here that we've never needed to water our window boxes. I know we're very lucky in that regard. But they just haven't loved it. So let me know what you think. We usually love white begonias and they usually do well for us. So it's been kind of an interesting thing. Maybe it's been too much rain for them, like the sedum. Who knows? Oop. Oh my gosh, I just noticed this giant clover. Gotta take care of that. Those have been doing well. Let me show you our next one that hasn't been doing well. That is our ferns in pots. We've had several ferns in pots this year, and we had a heat wave a couple of weeks ago. And unfortunately, it fell right at the time when we were out of town. And so they just did not love it. So this one here, right when we got back, we cut it back. So maybe I can show you that, what it looked like before, but it has just been struggling. It was doing fine, looking beautiful. And then when we left on vacation for a week and a half, we came back and it was all crispy and fried. So honestly now it's looking a lot better now that we've cut it back and we've gotten a lot of rain. So it's staying a little bit more moist. It's just not looking great. It's just not, they've not been very happy. And then we had a couple of ferns on our porch that we transplanted and those completely crisped up. We planted those and then we went on vacation right away and those did not make it. So Bert planted some really beautiful things in their place, which I'm like, why didn't we do this to begin with? It's beautiful. I'll just show you those. It's back on the porch. I love it out here now that we've done our makeover. But look at that. So we had some really big, beautiful ferns and they all completely crisped up and died in this oak barrel here. But he's put these Ipomoea all around these white impatiens. And this is just like a 6-pack that was on, all of these were on sale. They were all half off. It's a very, very cheap way of getting a really nice display for the second half of the year. And I just love it. It's so beautiful. And that white just really adds this cohesion to the space. I think it's so pretty. I love it. So I suppose in a way that's kind of like our, this is looking good. I'd say with the ferns, the biggest thing there is just they weren't accustomed to the heat. It went from highs in the 70s to highs in the 90s. And we weren't here to tend to them and make sure they had, you know, decent amount of water. And so unfortunately they kind of crisped up, but the plants themselves are still alive. So next year they'll come back and be really, really beautiful. So we ended up transplanting those elsewhere. Yeah, that's just something that hasn't done well for us. And ferns in pots in the past have done really, really well for us. We had them in our barrels along our driveway. And that's been really, really nice to have those. Okay, so I know I spoke about this one earlier when we were talking about the Kufia, but actually the Superbena Cobalt has been kind of a struggle for us this year. It looks okay. It doesn't look terrible. It's definitely not as bad as some of the other plants that we've talked about, but it's not really doing what it usually does for us. We had this same thing happen last year where the Superbenas just, we went really heavy on them last year and they just weren't as floriferous as they have been in the past for us. So I'm assuming it's probably that we've had lots of rain, not that much sun, the heat kicked in later. And so it could be that the next ones that we're gonna do aren't looking as bad as some of the ones we talked about initially, but that's one that I would say isn't a total win for us this year. So there it is, and you can see it's spreading out quite a bit there to there. And I love the color of those blooms. Or is this the cobalt or is this the violet ice? Actually, this is probably the violet ice. I think this is the violet ice. Oh, I love that center. It's so pretty. Yeah, the violet ice, I guess, my bad, is it's just not performing for us the way that it has in years past. And some of the leaves here look a little bit stressed. I think it's water stress. I think they're getting too much water. You know, just not looking as wonderful as they could. You can really tell with this one here. We have another one here. And there's 2 or 3 blooms on it, you know. Usually these just get huge and kind of take up the whole area. And it's just a different experience with those this year. So our next one on the list that's not looking so great, I showed you a little bit of, and this is one that we've known does not do really well, especially midsummer onward. It just, the amount of water that we get, they just start to get powdery mildew. So we moved all of these plants, we transplanted them. They were in the front of the border and we moved them to the back of the border. And that is our phlox. The funny thing is, we transplanted the phlox and replaced them with the sedum. So this year the sedum aren't doing very well. We used to have the phlox here and here, and they just shone so beautifully. They were just such a beautiful feature there. So we put them back there. Yeah, they look beautiful. They're flowering, but they do have lots of powdery mildew. So I'm not sure if you can see, but it's that one right there. Looking gorgeous. But if you go a little bit farther down, you can see that their leaves down at the bottom have some powdery mildew already forming. And see how they're starting to brown and crisp right there? That's from the powdery mildew. And the other funny thing is that in the front of the border where we pulled them up, they have been very stubborn, and some of them stuck around like these. So we had them here and moved the plant, and it's almost like thanking us for a little division, because now the phlox is kind of spread all the way over here. Even though we dug up the whole plant and moved it into the back. That's that one right there. That guy right there. Dug him up from here, moved him there. But look at that. I mean, already has powdery mildew on the leaves. Really, you can see it really clearly at the base, which is why we just didn't like to have them in the front of the border, because that is just not nice to look at. Yuck. And I noticed this at the beginning of the year. I noticed that they had already started to come back, but I thought, oh, you know, actually that'll be kind of fun to have a few wispy little phlox kind of head, you know, flower heads just kind of spread throughout. That'll look kind of whimsical. So we'll see once they start to bloom if it's really nice, but we can always kind of wrangle them out as well. And I just thought, oh, all of these annuals that we've put here will kind of cover the foliage. And because they won't be as thick, maybe they won't get the powdery mildew because they'll have tons of airflow. But they've already gotten it. Phlox are just really susceptible to that here, unfortunately. And with phlox, the way that I would say to mitigate the powdery mildew, there are some natural products I know that you can use. Some of you have recommended using neem oil. We don't use neem oil, but I know that a lot of you have recommended that for the powdery mildew and rust and things like that. What I would say is that if you live in an area where the plant is just continuously telling you, like, this is the issue that we're going to be afflicted with here. If we're here, this is what is going to happen. Then unless that's like your favorite plant, I would say either move it to an area that's less noticeable so that if you have to cut it back mid-season, it's not going to create a gap in your borders, especially at the front of the border. Other than that, I would just say to try and give it a lot of airflow. If you don't live in an area that struggles with phlox, with powdery mildew and things like that, I think you should be pretty good if you just make sure they get consistent water, and that they're maybe in an area that has nice drainage and is not going to just sit in water and have that swampy, humid air all around the plants. That's one that's just looking beautiful. The blooms are looking beautiful, but the base of the plants are starting to look a little bit mangy. So next up, and this one is a little bit surprising for us because we haven't struggled with this in the past, is we have some black spot on our alnwick roses. We don't have them on any other roses, but on our alnwick roses, oh wait, and our Zephyrin Druins actually, the alnwicks and the Zephyrin Druins, we have black spot. So this is our Zephyrin Druin climbing rose here on the rose arbor. Not looking great. This one, I just think in particular, this Zephyrin Druin climbing rose, I just don't think it gets enough water. But, you know, black spot is an interesting one. We had this in our roses in Northern California. it's not the end of the world. A lot of places get black spot throughout, every single year their roses will get black spot. This is our first year having it here, I think. But the contributing factors to that are going to be pretty much the same as your powdery mildew. So high temperatures and high humidity. And yeah, doesn't look great. But some of the leaves aren't afflicted yet, and it will cause them to defoliate. I don't know if you can see that, but there's tons of the leaves on the ground. But luckily with our arbor, the ones on the top don't have any yet, so the new growth doesn't have any, which is nice. Our cobia scandens and our morning glory are on this side, so hopefully they'll just take over, and that'll be okay this year. And then there's the alnwick there. You can see it's just, there's a beautiful hyssop behind it, but it's just there. It's kind of defoliated, looking a little weary, a little rough. Now, our other roses, these are the Olivia Rose Austins. They are looking great. Healthy, glossy, very beautiful. Lots more roses on them, lots more buds. So that's really fun that we have some roses that are still doing well in the garden. And I absolutely love roses. So it is really nice that the Olivia Rose Austins are just doing so well. So that's one that I would say, honestly, if I was going to plant this garden over again, I would probably do the Olivia Rose Austin because they bloom earlier. They're this gentle, soft pink. And I think having those throughout instead of the alnwicks and the fairy roses, just in these long borders, I think that's probably what I would do instead. So now there are a few that I just want to quickly talk about. We have some coleus that have just not done it this year. We put them out relatively early, It was after our last frost date, but it just stayed kind of cold for a little bit, cold and rainy, and the coleus just did not love that. And so they died all the way back. We put them in the back of our long borders here, which, oh my gosh, you guys, I love this. I love how the hostas are just repeated. We planted all of these hostas from tubers, so it took them several years, and now they're finally looking like hostas. They look great. We have astilbes that we've transplanted here. So this was a really very budget-friendly garden border. Fern was from the property. The phlox here was transplanted from the ones I was telling you about. And then these hostas and astilbes, the hostas were very cheap. The forget-me-nots in the front were all transplanted from other places on the property where they grow wild. And the astilbes look beautiful. Then we put some sun patience in there. I just love how the back of this border looks. I don't know, I just feel like all of the purples meld really well together. That purple of the hostas, they just look gorgeous to me. Oh, I love the way they look. The hummingbirds love these plants, love these flowers. The astilbes with those, I just love that combination. And then our sun patience here that are this beautiful kind of lavender, lilac-y color. I just really like this border. Anyway, the one that hasn't been doing well are these coleus. They died back completely to the ground and have only now started to do something. I thought they were dead, so I just let the hyssops spread their little seeds around. But they're coming back, but those just, haven't been doing great. The other ones, oh, here's another sedum that's looking rocky. It's a variegated sedum. But our other coleus was over here. We had them filling in these gaps. One coleus there, one coleus there, one coleus there, there, and over there. And there's only one that survived. So, yeah, some little gaps there, but that's the only one that's made it. And for that, I think it's definitely down to the fact that we really should be waiting until June to plant things out that are, really hot weather lovers. So that's just something. You know, we want to get things in the ground so that they get nice and bulky and they have a chance to establish before the slugs come out. So we like to, you know, plant up our supertunias and our coleus. Those are probably the two that the slugs love the most. We like to plant those up as early as we can so that their roots get established and they can really put on growth and kind of compete with the vigor of the slugs and snails here. But it's just kind of one of those sort of teeter-totter games because you just want to make sure that you're planting them early enough to get established, but late enough so that they don't get kind of hit with the frosts or colder weather. So just a catch-22 a bit. Now I'd like to shift things up, and I just want to show you some things that are looking fantastic, starting, ironically, with some coleus. Okay, so we're going to walk out of our long borders and into our driveway. And look at these coleus. Oh my gosh. This is the big white begonia I was telling you about that I wish we had, but this is one begonia. See how you get some dieback that like lands on a leaf, but they fall off of the plant before they die. So they die really beautifully. This big white begonia, 10 out of 10. Love this plant. Love this coleus. And I think this combination is just really, really pretty. This is the compact lavender sun passion. And so it's in a really large barrel there. I just think it looks fabulous. So when you walk up the driveway to the cottage, you're just greeted by these beautiful plants. Some leaves from the trees on them, but they just look so happy. So the compact lavender and the compact lilac that we have, sun patiens, just such a winner. I love it. Yay! Okay, the next one that's doing so well is the cobia scandens. So luckily, our rose has the black spot, but luckily we have beautiful, healthy plants that are taking over here. And this cobia scandens, cup and saucer vine, it just takes over. It's taking over here. It just is so pretty. I love the kind of honeysuckle-like foliage, and it just spreads so vigorously. It's gone all the way up here, all the way over here. It's coming out through the rose there. I just love it. And it hasn't really put on a lot of blooms, but it does have its first bloom. Look at that. Can you see it in this light? Oh my goodness. Okay, maybe I'll try and get a shot of it later. Oh, I love it. Coming on this side of the new fence there, cobia scandens, looking fabulous. Olivia Rose Austin, we talked about that, looking glorious. These Ipomea, thankfully they're doing really, really well because they're next to the sedum and I think they can kind of take over that spot. So that's good. The plain the blue salvia. Oh my gosh, look how many bumblebees just right there. Boom, boom, boom. And more bumblebees on the coneflower, which is another one that's just looking fabulous. So many bumbles, just love these plants. Gorgeous. The Queen Anne's lace, just looking whimsical and magical and glorious this time of year. All of this has been kind of like pushed down by the rain, but even still, the cleomes are just looking fabulous. Senorita Rosalia cleome. This is being splayed out by the rain, but look at that plain the blue salvia. Oh my goodness. Lamb's ear being eaten, but just looks gorgeous. Grows quickly enough to where it's fine. The Supertunia Vista bubblegums are looking great. Today is not a great example for them, for any of our Supertunias, because, you know, we've had so much rain that just kind of destroyed the petals. But this is the Supertunia Mini Vista plum veined. Such a winner. I love that one. Usually it's filled with color. This one is definitely a winner. This is the Rockapulco double wisteria impatient. And I just absolutely love it. I think it looks so sparkly and beautiful in the border. It's huge, it's gorgeous. And it has tons and tons of buds, and it just continues to bloom. Again, you know, as you can see, like it's lost a lot of the blooms because of the crazy rain. I mean, it was just like buckets of rain, but just looking gorgeous. More of our Ipomea looking beautiful. And you saw this a little bit earlier, but this panicle hydrangea, this is the Pinky Winky hydrangea standard. We have them on either side of the door. The bumblebees absolutely love this plant. And I just think it's so gorgeous. I love the kind of pink burgundy stems. I love how healthy the foliage looks. I love that the bumblebees love this plant. It just makes me so happy. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And the little buds look like little pearls. They're just so pretty. Oh my word. Could you just die? The sunpatiens are looking good. The fairy roses are looking good. The geraniums, the salvias. There's a lot of things that are looking fantastic right now, and I'm sure I'm forgetting them. If you want me to do a whole garden tour where I'm just telling you about the things that look good, kind of the reverse of this video, let me know. Because in a few weeks we'll have new things blooming, and yeah, I can come through and do that. Also, if you want me to do this for our veggie patch, there are some crops this year that have done really well and some not so much. So do let me know. Please like this video if you like this kind of content, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care and happy gardening.